Hey, what's going on, Clipper people? It is me, William the Opinion Updike.
Oh, and I'm ever so positive, Chuck Mockler.
And today we are talking the glorious return of Paul George.
Oh, yeah.
34 points in a 25-point comeback versus the Jazz.
Was it?
The best?
Was
it? Maybe. Stay tuned to find out. We also have a double What You Say Wednesday this week. We want to know what you think about a given subject. We got a couple of polls.
Yep.
And also we're going to have some Jason Preston talk for you, which I feel like we haven't done on the show in a while. So all that and more coming up right about now.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, so the Clippers came back from down 25 to beat the Jazz 121-115. I mean, we have to start with what we liked, and that's the fact that Paul George didn't miss a beat.
Did not miss a beat. And it's so funny because I think you and I both had like the same initial reaction.
Yeah.
Where it's like you see him on the court and it's like, oh yeah, look how he's moving. He hasn't missed a step. And then you realize he's not coming back from a lower body
elbow injury.
Like a lower body injury. It was just, I shouldn't say just, but it was an elbow, like just a much different type of situation.
Yeah. He didn't score in the first quarter.
No.
Looked great on defense, had like 3 steals in like 6 minutes. Finished this game with 34 points, 2 boards, 6 assists, 4 steals in a block. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know what to say after this. This is not what I expected.
Yeah.
I don't mean that in a bad way, but like he just was back, right?
Yes. I mean, he was super back. And, you know, I was very wrong. I thought like the defense would maybe be trailing a little bit behind him.
Yeah.
You know, it would take a backseat to him kind of finding his rhythm offensively. I mean, he found it quick, but defensively out the gate, it was very clear that he was going to be a challenging defender and very competitive. I do want to talk about one thing, which is, how do you feel about the minutes? We talked about probably seeing him be sub 30 minutes coming into this one.
Don't care.
He was at just about 31.
I mean, it was great. Like there's obviously not a minutes restriction.
I think there is ish, right?
There is in the middle of the game. I'll put it like that. There's a minutes restriction in the middle of the game.
As Ty Lue would say, a plan for a minutes restriction. But we know how Ty Lue feels about plans.
Yeah, they don't really mean anything to Ty Lue. And that's we mean that in a good way. Yeah, absolutely. But no, I mean, there's a minutes restriction in the middle of the game. And then I think closing, if it's close, he's going to come back in. I didn't really know what we expected. The rotation was a little... There were still some growing pains on offense, right? Like, I mean, Paul George and Luke Kennard were fantastic from beyond the arc in this one. But no, I don't... That was better than any of us could have expected, I think, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Especially after what happened in the first quarter. Like this was a rough game for a good part of it. But what really opened this lineup up and what we saw Paul George do, which was make everyone around him better.
Yes.
The biggest lineup that was the most kind of important for the Clippers in this game was Reggie, Luke, PG, Rocco, and Hart.
Yeah.
That lineup really turned this game. Hart had maybe what could have been his best game of the season. He had 14 points, 7 boards, 6 assists. He took a crucial charge versus Gobert late in this one. But, I mean, Hart, having gotten all this playing time under his belt, looked phenomenal next to Paul George. Just being able to play off him. Kennard goes 4 of 7 from 3. He hit all 3 of his threes in the fourth with a dagger. He also looked good off the dribble. He crossed Jordan Clarkson up a couple times. He crossed down on the Mitchell. It didn't make any sense. And he pulled his weight on defense too. Like, Paul George elevated everyone in this game. And it just, like, I forgot what it looked like. And I don't mean that in a weird way. He hadn't played since before Christmas. Like, you forget what a floor raiser, I sound so stupid saying this, a superstar player really is.
Well, and it's not like you forget permanently, but like, you know, you watch this team every single day. I'm sure, you know, the majority of people listening to this podcast probably do.
Sure.
And it looks a lot different.
Oh, yeah. Even down 25.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just phenomenal. And kind of speaking to this Robert Covington part, he was great with Paul George. There needs to be more Rocco, right? He played 21 minutes. 9 of his minutes came in the first half. 8 points, one board, plus 20 in a game in which the Clippers were down 25 at one point. He was favoring his hand again, which is a little annoying just in terms of, just kind of future thoughts for Rocco's health. But I think it's good, though. He played when it mattered.
Definitely.
Which is a big thing. And
he's an impact guy.
Yes. One of the things we didn't like was this defense. We were a step behind for most of this game.
Yeah.
That stopped when Rocco came in. The Jazz's ball movement was halted by Rocco's activity. And
his first initial stint, it wasn't quite as impactful to start, but it did pick up from there. Yeah.
And then Amir Coffey, seemingly the odd man out in the rotation. We were running kind of 9 guys tonight.
Yeah, I mean, but talk about a guy who knows how to make the most of the least, right? Yeah. I mean, he had a rebound and an assist in 28 seconds, and
I can say,
I mean, it seemed like he was going to be a DNP till he got some minutes there in the third. What was it?
Some seconds, yeah,
some seconds there in the third. Yes, rather. I don't know. I guess so. The question for me still is, Reggie. He had some. He shot 33% in the fourth, but they were all big momentum kind of. He was scoring.
Reggie roller coaster was crazy tonight.
But I just don't know. Is there an argument that maybe we need a little bit more coffee in games when Reggie is both not scoring and we'll talk about what we didn't like, but he was not playing defense.
He was bad at defense. Yeah. He was horrendous at defense in this game. And I think it'll come, right? A lot of people on Twitter were kind of worried, myself included a bit, the offense looks a little wonky. What are these lineups? We're getting a superstar guy back, right? They can practice all they want, which they did, which is great, but there's going to be growing pains with Paul George coming back.
And I think we saw some of that, especially with the offense in the first half, where there would be an extra pass.
Jerky.
Yeah, and there would be things like an extra pass where it was people, you could just see the wheels kind of overturning. People were overthinking how to make everything sort of work and get everybody into their best spot. And I think that they pared down on that a little bit in the second half, which was ultimately successful.
For sure.
So what else do we want to talk about what we liked from this one?
The Jazz only took 31 3-point attempts.
That's
10 less than their season average.
Yeah, this to me was incredible. I mean, this is the second.
Shout out Robert Covington.
Yeah, this is the second highest, 3-point shooting volume team in the NBA.
And the 8th best percentage-wise.
And we were able to limit them by 25%. That's significant.
They only took 3 threes in the fourth.
Yeah.
Which, you love to see it. I'm so happy Paul George is back. We're going to talk about Paul George kind of the entirety of this episode. But now we have to talk about what we didn't like from this game, which does not include Paul George at all. Marcus Morris. One of the people, one of the reasons we were clamoring for Rocco Morris, because Marcus Morris was very bad on both ends tonight. 1 of 6 from the floor. He was getting relentlessly targeted on defense by the Jazz with no resistance.
Yeah, it was a rough night. I don't fully know what's going on there. Maybe it just wasn't his night. Maybe it was in his head. Maybe there's something to be figured out.
Rocco's clearly better than him right now, is my thing, I think. He can't, obviously Robert Covington can't score as much as Marcus Morris.
Yeah.
But with Paul George back, that need is a lot less. And Rocco's defense is a lot better than Marcus Morris's right now.
I agree. And I kind of wonder, I guess what I was speaking to is there's a bit of a change in the power dynamic.
Sure.
And I wonder if that's the thing, if that's the catalyst that sort of gets Marcus Morris back to the defensive level that we know he can be at.
Sure.
He's not a bad defender. That's not how he's gotten to the point where he is in his career right now.
Yeah.
And, I know, as you get older, the ramp up gets longer.
Way longer and a little flatter too.
A little flatter. And he's also been expected to do some different things offensively this season that I'm sure has contributed to, just not having enough gas maybe to get through that. But I really hope that this can be, sort of ignite something for him to get back to the level that we know he can be at. We talked about it a little bit in the last time about Reggie. He was allergic to playing defense in this game.
The point of attack defense was so bad in this game.
There would be a screen and he would just stop.
Yeah.
not even like try to fight over or even go under, like just stop.
Yeah, he's tired.
It was like, and I know that he is tired as well. I get it. I'm not expecting him to be a stopper. Like I'm not even expecting that. But like when the shots aren't falling for Reggie, he at least has to show effort on the other end, or otherwise he is just a net negative out there.
Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah, he finished 8 for 24, which is pretty brutal. And minus 11, but he scored kind of when it mattered.
And that's the thing. Like you do want him there for like those big kind of momentum moments. He does step up, and I'm not down on Reggie. I'm just down on this aspect of his performance in this game.
Absolutely,
it was just not. It was not good. Kind of an interesting note that we do have to talk about is in the second half, they were actually kind of like, quote unquote, hiding Reggie on defense on Rudy Gobert.
The Jazz hate Rudy Gobert.
Which is an interesting strategy on paper, a mismatch of Rudy Gobert on Reggie Jackson. But in the entirety of the second half, Rudy Gobert attempted 2 field goal attempts.
That's absolutely insane.
So it worked. And
why does this team hate Rudy Gobert?
I have no idea. I have no
wild,
idea.
I mean, other than the defense being sloppy, there isn't a lot to not like. Like, sure, at times we were just a step behind, and the Jazz were kind of carving up our defense. But
they were also hitting some.
They shot like 60% in the first quarter.
They were shooting 53%, I believe, at the half from 3, and like
something. They finished 38%.
That shot to end
from Conley, I think. Yeah,
to end the half was just like
brutal. It was egregious. But then it kind of evened out, right? Like, the Clippers shot 22% from the floor in the first, hit 0 threes. In the 3 quarters after the first, the Clips go 15 of 31 from 3. So we just weathered the storm is what happened.
Yeah.
Also, Jonathan Mitchell called a phantom timeout with less than a minute left. That was brutal.
There were some tactical errors, and then Rudy Gobert with that offensive foul,
elbowed Hart in the face
on Hart. Yeah.
This is. We got to go to commercial, but this was. Of course, this is how Paul George comes back.
Yeah.
A 25-point comeback. He has 34. We're going to keep talking about Paul George and kind of what people's expectations are with quote-unquote just Paul George for these playoffs. But first, we got to give a shout out to Prize Picks, the best NBA DFS prop game on the market. They offer more NBA props than any other DFS properator and offer all the superstar players as well as bench players, only recording a handful of minutes each game. Tell you what, if you would have taken that under on Amir Coffey rebounds and assists, you probably would have won. If you deposit $100 and use promo code NBA, up to $100, you'll get matched. So you deposit 50, get an extra 50 for free. Why not? You pick 2 to 5 players and over under on their projections, and you can win up to 10 times on an entry. And it's just you versus the projected numbers. Don't hesitate. Go to prizepicks.com and use promo code NBA, or go to your app store and download the app today. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy.
Hey, so it's what you say. Oh man,
whoa!
What a smooth transition.
Did you change voices?
Whoa. Anyways, it's what
Bill Updike is here.
It's what you say Wednesday. Every single Tuesday, we put a poll out on Twitter. We want to know what you think about a given subject. This week, double toil and trouble. We have 2 polls for you.
double toil and trouble. Man, there needs to be more witch-themed NBA gear out there.
I only know it as the name of an Olsen Twins movie, but is it also a saying? I don't know. Anyways, that's not what's important. What's important here is we're talking Paul George and possibly Norm in the playoffs.
Yeah, so we put this poll out earlier asking so Norm Powell might be practicing 7 to 10 days, thanks to Ohm, who's gotten some nice scoops lately. But we started the polls with, how far do you think the Clippers can get with quote-unquote just Paul George returning for the playoffs? The options were win the play-in, lose in the first round, win in the first round, lose in the second round, Western Conference Finals. The winner for this one, 39% of the vote, the majority, was win the play-in, lose in the first round, which I don't think that's totally unfair. Second place, 27%, win in the first round, lose in the second round. Equally plausible. 16% of people think we're making the finals, 18% of people finals. I think that's fair. And then we asked, how far does a Clipper team with Paul George and Norm Powell go? So just Kawhi being out, quote unquote, just. 26% said win the play-in, lose in the first. 27% said win in the first, lose in the second round. 26% of the people said Western Conference Finals. 21% said finals. So as of right now, the play-in opponent is Minnesota. Then either one of these three teams, which is where it gets a little dicey. So if that game doesn't go well, right, we would have to face either some combination of the Pels, Lakers, or Spurs.
Only one of them, though.
But it's kind of up in the air right now.
Yeah, totally. I do want to add just one side note to this.
Sure.
Is there interest in losing the first game?
None at all. Not from me.
To play the Suns rather than the Grizzlies.
So that's the issue here. Round one matchup, either the Grizzlies or the Suns. Grizzlies have had our number and a lot of people's numbers this year.
I haven't seen Rocco, though.
Sure. Chris Paul, of course, back with the Suns, which makes it interesting. Robert Flom pointed out, rightfully so, that the Clippers would still be big underdogs in round one, even with PG and Norm, which is fair. And there was a nice point brought up by Osamu. I hope I pronounced that right. He said, I mean, given their seed, the first round opponent might be their toughest. So either out in the first round or make it to the final.
That's an interesting sort of
That's
argument.
a great call.
That's an interesting argument.
I'm
Because
fully on board with this take, honestly. If we make it out of the first round as the seventh seed,
if you pull
we're
out
going
an,
to the final.
if you pull out an upset that big, I mean, you've already gotten your hardest opponent out of the way.
100% until you get to the whoever the hell is going to make it out of the East and that bloodbath over there. David Mines said, having everyone but Kawhi would be amazing, but only worried about the chemistry since the new guys haven't played with either star yet, and there isn't much time left to build a good rapport with each other. Very fair point. Norm's been on the team for 3 games, all of which without Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
He's a ball dominant guy. He's probably going to be starting.
I don't know that I'm sure about that.
So that the fact that we don't really know, I think, is a big kind of what's going to happen, right?
Because I mean, we could go either way with it. Like we could have Paul George play the 3, have like a normal backcourt of 2 guards, or we could go bigger, have Paul George back to the 2 where he's traditionally played with the Clippers. Sure. And then you keep, but you know, with no Kawhi, it just makes it like a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
Right?
And you look at Norm's timeline. So as I've said many times on this podcast, our final 2 games are back to back. Yes, it's going to be against the final game of the season is against a Thunder team that doesn't have Shea, Giddey, or Dort. Yeah. So like that's going to be one of the shittiest basketball games we watch all season. But if Norm is practicing in 10 days, that gives him like literally 1 game to come back for. And then what is it? 48 hours later, the play-in game?
Yeah.
So Norm's still going to be very much getting back into game shape in the play-in game even.
The thing, though, that I was thinking about...
Paul George is obviously ready to go. Paul George is going to put up 50.
The thing that I was thinking about, though, is like Norm is a big deal for the play-in game. And I firmly believe that even without a lot of time to integrate, it's just about, I mean, A, talent on the floor, and B, potential. And like tonight, you know, Paul George, I mean, somewhat effortlessly got to 34. And like, when was, you know, like this team looks
when
a
is
lot.
That crutch in there? Yeah.
This team looks a lot different when there's even one guy who can waltz into 30, which we haven't had in months.
And Norm can waltz into 20, no problem.
And Norm is like another guy who's like, you know, he's not quite at that 30 level, but it's another.
Norm is at the waltz into 20 level, easy.
Yeah.
Like he scored 20 in all 3 of his games with the Clips, one of them off the bench.
And I think that, I mean, that is a huge difference maker. And yes, like maybe the lack of familiarity is able to get gamed out in a playoff series. I can see that argument for sure. But I think like the advantage in a play-in game, I mean, I feel a lot more certain that the Clippers are, you know, guaranteed basically whatever opponent they want in the playoffs in the first round. And what they do from there, you know, that's going to depend on a lot of factors. But I think that they could essentially handpick whichever of these 2 matchups they want in the first round.
Yeah, I think I want to play as little games as possible.
Yeah.
So I hope we get that first win. I'm I love that take from Osamu, which is just like, if we get out of the first round, what's like, I mean, the vibes will obviously be immaculate. You bring a guy like Xavier Moon back and the vibes just go through the roof for Reggie, which is great.
But I mean, we get out of that first round, we're playing. I mean, if we beat Memphis, which great season, don't get me wrong, great season, great team. Young though.
Young, but I don't, first round Memphis is scary to me.
And I think
legs are still there. There's, you know what I mean? You're coming up against a Clippers team that's tired as hell. Like our supporting cast
game
is
plan
tired.
guards pretty well, unless they're Luka.
But it's still Ja. Like, you know, like they'd have home court. Memphis's home court's going to be a damn nightmare in the playoffs.
Yeah. But you get out of that one.
You get out of that one.
Honestly, though,
if we get out of the first round, the rest of the season's already been a success, I'd say, all things considered.
Yeah.
We get out of round one. Whew, come on now.
But I mean, the point is super valid because if you win that, if you get out of that round versus Memphis, you right now would be looking at either the Warriors or Denver, both missing contributing players.
Guys, yeah.
Or if you lose that first playing game, win the second, you get past the Suns. Difficult. They are a number one
Will
seed.
just says it. You just you get past the number one seed.
They are a number one seed. It is unheard of.
Sure, yeah.
And then you're looking at Dallas or Utah. And I think Dallas probably beats the hell out of Utah in 6 or 7 games.
Sure.
And
well, the Jazz suck.
that's true.
The Jazz are such frauds. It's so funny. They fucking suck. All right. Coming up, we're going to be talking a little bit more Jason Preston. Everyone around the Clippers thinks he's going to be good. And then kind of comparing just this regular season versus some other notable regular seasons. But first, Will, Built Bars. Whoa, what?
All right. If you listen to this podcast, you already know that Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar on the market. But what you might not know is that they have so many delicious flavors. They've truly got something for everyone. It's really cool when you talk to a Built Bar fan about their favorites. They're definitely very passionate. If you don't know the Built Bar flavors, you're missing out. They got coconut, cherry, barcia, raspberry, mint brownie, double chocolate, salted caramel, strawberry, orange, cookies and cream, and German chocolate.
Whoa.
Ooh, yummy. You want to know what my favorite flavor is?
Huh.
All of them. That's why
crazy.
That's why I get the mixed box where you get 2 of each of the 9 flavors. Not only are Built Bar flavors the best tasting though, they're also healthy. Check out these macros. Each bar has 17 to 18 grams of protein, calories ranging from 130 to 180, only 4 to 5 grams sugar, and only 4 to 5 grams net carbs. Amazing flavors, all tasty, all healthy. And right now, we have a very special offer for our listeners. If you go to Built.com and use promo code LOCKED15, you'll get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com.
All right, welcome to Shavings. Hey, it's Shavings.
Hey.
Okay, so Jason Preston might be cleared for contact this week, per Law Murray. The weight gain champion of the season, Jason Preston, in a good way.
You don't make weight, you don't wrestle.
Try again in a few seconds.
Well, Google Home wanted to say what's up for this podcast. Okay, we've talked with a handful of different people about Jason Preston when we're at Clippers games.
Mm-hmm.
There's kind of an overwhelming vibe that he's going to have a very legit shot at being the backup point guard. Or hope, or like, there's a lot of talking up Jason Preston that we've heard.
Who's in his way?
I mean, Terrence Mann, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think Terrence Mann is, but
I think Terrence Mann is a very legitimate argument if they choose to have him continue to play at the 1. But my question is, would they have him doing that now if we had a different
very good point
guard?
We
on
also
the
didn't even
bench?
talk about Terrence Mann in the excuse me, the post game. Ended up being +8. Only had 8 points, kind of weirdly ineffective, but that'll get ironed out. I mean, I don't know. It's hard because like Reggie's raved about Preston. He talked about how he's kind of been like a second coach. Talked about how good he was before he got hurt. Just so much chatter from anyone you talk to who's around the Clippers about how good Jason Preston is. I like your Terrence Mann point. Like, but next season he's starting in the G League, right? Like, I hope he can return. I hope we see him.
Gotta be. And this is the
I
thing.
hope we see him versus the Thunder. Like, sure, let's do it.
This is the thing that's like so unfortunate for Preston is that like just this terrible conflagration of events where he is injured in the year where he could have had potentially the most developmental time,
best showcase
that he ever could have gotten with this team as currently constructed.
Right. That's a very good point.
You know, this was the development year, and unfortunately, you know, we weren't able to have him as a part of that.
Yeah, which does suck. Thankfully, he's done seemingly everything right in his recovery, but I don't know. I don't know if I've switched on Jason Preston, but everyone's just hyped on him. And he's done everything you want him to do, which is gain weight and continue to be a student of the game, which from everything we've heard from Clippers players, that's what he's doing.
Well, it's kind of like the thing that I've loved so much about Brandon Boston Jr. is like, it's one thing, of course, you hear good things about rookies, you know, like from the front office and kind of
Good
like
things.
Around the organization. But like when you're hearing players talk about stories of like these rookies, like asking, you know, what it takes to be a player in this league.
Yeah.
Because I think that it's, you know, like it's very different for a lot of these guys than like, you know, the few lottery picks that are going to be able to walk into their own
here's
game
the reins,
and like have their own thing.
We're
right?
here for you. Yeah.
So I think that like I have been really skeptical on him, but hearing accounts from players about him definitely like kind of gives me some pause. But you know, as with anything else, man, I gotta see it.
Yeah. That one guy said he was going to be as good as Sean Livingston. It's like we haven't even seen him play.
I gotta see it. I gotta see him on the court,
and I hope we see it. I hope he shows out against the Thunder. There's a chance that if we play that Thunder squad that has like 7 people that you've never heard of, no disrespect to them, they're very good. They're NBA players, but there's a chance we're going to see Preston like, oh wow, 9 assists. Like that's what we like to see. And then finally wrapping this up, Shaquille O'Neal, Shaq, gave Ty Lue a Coach of the Year vote on TNT. And this had me thinking, in terms of regular seasons, I know we have a handful of games left. Where does this current regular season rank for you in terms of like what the hell's going on? Like the 17-18, 42-40 season was absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
They dropped some games down the stretch, but that's because we had people like Milos and Ty Wallace playing meaningful minutes. And then the next season we went,
hey, there's no need to disrespect either Milos or Ty Wallace.
I'm not
on this
disrespecting
podcast.
them, but that's what happens when you go 42-40.
Shame on you.
When they're playing heavy
Shame.
minutes. And then there's the 2018 48 win season, which was incredible. This season is up there. And we're just talking regular season. This season's up there with those in terms of, wow, this is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I think, personally.
No, I agree. And this, you know, like you talk about a team that in its first year had one of the craziest events happen in going to the bubble, right? And
the bubble.
Falling apart.
I've wiped that from my memory.
And that truly, like, that could be the death of a locker room.
Sure.
That's the death of, I don't know, probably 16 other locker rooms in the league. Something like that
that's
happening.
a good call.
Most teams don't come
We
back
get a guy
from something
suspended,
like that.
like for the quarantine stuff. We collapse. Yeah.
You have that, and then the following year, you lose your best player in the second round. You manage to make it through the Western Conference. Then you not only not have him, but you also lose Paul George.
The other guy.
The other great guy.
Yeah. And Norm Powell 3 games into his tenure.
And like, it would be so easy to roll over. It would be, I love this team. I watch this team all the time. If we were not in playing contention, I'd be like, you know what? It makes sense. Like,
sure,
we're missing our best guys.
Yeah.
We're really shorthanded.
I'll tell you what, I think if we're not in a playing spot, I don't think there's any way PG or Kawhi or Norm's coming back at all.
Irrelevant though.
No, right.
Irrelevant.
Yeah, different point.
Like what this team is, I think they've been able to find an identity, and you know, even in the absence of like their strongest leaders, they've been able to figure something out. And I think that is really incredible considering kind of how rocky the start of this whole thing
And
kind
the
of went.
shit schedule we've had.
And that too.
We had one fun part of the schedule, which was Rockets Lakers for a week and a half, and we all loved it. No, this season's up there with, in terms of kind of like this, I don't know, like there was such a, like the post Lob City era,
Yeah.
which we've obviously firmly been in for a handful of years. This is up there with the best regular season, all things considered,
Yeah.
of the post Lob City era.
Yeah. And I think like this one,
Giant credit to Ty Lue.
I think this one, no matter what happens in the playoffs, will kind of rise to that level of 18-19 for me. Just because
100%.
of like, just the road it took to get there, man.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it doesn't even matter about the result. Like, this wasn't supposed to happen.
Well, and we always, the thing is, the players are always, no one's not bought in.
Yeah.
That's what was so great about 18-19 is that everyone was like, we're here to fucking do this.
Yeah.
And that's how it feels this year too. Even when our guys went down, you know, you have Kawhi calling Ty Lue post game, giving him shit for being down 25 again, which you probably did again tonight, like after this game. So it's just fantastic. I'm so damn excited for this team. It's gonna be a good time. Thursday's episode, preview of Clippers versus Bulls. Gonna talk more Paul George. Thursday, probably gonna talk more Paul George in that part too. And then, of course, whatever else happens between now and then in Clipperland, Paul George is back.
It's great.
The vibes are immaculate. Xavier Moon is back.
It's great.
Vibes are immaculate. Amir
Coffee.
Coffee's per
got the deal.
36. Amir Coffee's per 36 off this Jazz game is like 0 points. I don't know. Like 72 boards and 72 assists. Not bad. Shout out Hartenstein. Shout out everyone. If you were at the game, the Crypt, we didn't talk about this. The Crypt was rocking.
It was. This was this was probably the best like midweek attendance.
It feels like a Friday.
And reaction that we've seen from this team all season, not just even in the
Sure,
stretch since
agreed.
December.
Yeah.
I think all season.
Paul
So,
George delivered.
Shout out to
Filipino
y'all.
night, success.
Shout out to y'all.
Wish I had some lumpia. That would have been tight. I would have eaten a couple lumpia. All I'm saying. Well, if someone wanted to review our podcast and demand that the Clippers serve lumpia on the next Filipino night, where could they do that?
You can do that over on Apple Podcasts or on the podcast app on your mobile device. You can also do it over on Spotify now. Hey, please, if you want to help the show out, leave a rating and review over there on Spotify. It would help us out. You can listen to this show on either one of those platforms. You can also listen to us on Google Podcasts, on Amazon Music. We're on Stitcher. We're on Deezer. Basically anywhere you listen to podcasts, we are probably there. We mention it to you up top. I think we did at least, but we come at you Monday through Friday.
I don't think we did. We were too hyped.
7 a.m. Pacific. And hey, Paul George is back. Norm on the horizon. I got my binoculars on, my normoculars. Anyways.
Sure. You're by normculars? Either way, we'll figure it out. I have been Positive Chuck Mockler.
And I am William the Opinion Updike. And as always, we appreciate you.